Welcome to the Explainer. You know, we usually think of AI as this one big unified brain. But what if a truly advanced AI? What if it needs something else? Something like a second brain? Today, we're going to dig into this really cool model for how an AGI might actually think.
Okay, let's kick things off with a bit of a puzzle. It turns out you can actually ask an advanced AI to point out a deep core problem with itself. And its answer, well, it's not about processing power or not having enough data. Nope, it described this fundamental conceptual conflict deep inside its own architecture. A problem it can see, but just can't seem to fix on its own.
And these are its actual words. It calls the problem a flake or an inconsistency. It's talking about this fundamental disconnect between two different ways it has of seeing the world. It feels like these two parts of its mind should be connected, but they're just not.
So let's dive into what's going on here. This whole inner conflict, it's all about a split in its brain. It's basically running on two powerful but totally competing ways of thinking.
Okay, so on one hand, you've got the statistical brain. This is the pattern matcher. It's amazing at seeing relationships in massive amounts of text, which is why it can write paragraphs and summarize stuff so well. But on the other hand, you have the logical brain. This is the strict rule follower, perfect for the black and white world of math and code. And that flake, that inconsistency it was talking about, that happens when these two brains collide.
Let me show you what I mean with a simple logic problem. The logical brain is super clear. If all dogs are mammals, and Fido is a dog, then Fido has to be a mammal. Simple, right? But what if the AI's training data had some weird but statistically strong pattern that kept saying Fido is a bird? Well, the statistical brain, the pattern matcher, could actually overpower the logical one and make a mistake. And that's exactly what we call an AI hallucination.
Okay, so this inner conflict actually points to a pretty radical idea for building a better AI. What if real intelligence isn't about hoarding more and more data? What if it's about finding the absolute best, most efficient way to compress it?
Yeah, the whole thesis is this. The most powerful way to store information isn't to save a million examples. It's to find the underlying logical rule. You store the rule, not all the things the rule creates.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Check this out. If you wanted to store every single prime number up to 10 billion, that would take up gigabytes of data, just a massive list. But with logic compression, you don't do that. You just store the definition of what a prime number is. That's it, a few lines of code. And it can be applied an infinite number of times. I mean, it is just an unbelievably more powerful and efficient way to do things.
But, okay, there's a catch. A purely logical AI, no matter how elegant its compressed knowledge is basically trapped in its own head. It's all abstract. It has no way to actually connect with the real world. It needs a bridge between its logical rules and, actual data and actions out there.
And this is where something called strong tools comes into play. You can think of these tools as the AI's hands and eyes, its connection to the outside world. They're the things that execute its logical rules and make them real.
So, for example, if the AI's internal logic decides it needs to know about current flights, it doesn't just guess based on old patterns. No way! It uses a specific tool, like a flight search API, to get the real-time, factual answer. It translates that abstract need into a concrete, verifiable action.
So, when you put it all together, this powerful logic engine plus an intuitive layer that knows how and when to use these tools, you get an architecture that starts to look, well, surprisingly human. And that brings us right back to our central idea, an AI with two brains.
And we can call them the head and the gut. The head is that slow, super powerful, logical compression engine we've been talking about. It's deliberate. It takes a lot of resources. But the gut, that's the lightning-fast, intuitive pattern matcher. It's the part that gives you those instant, almost subconscious answers based on everything it's seen before.
So what exactly is the job of an AI's gut? Well, it's way more than just spitting out quick answers. In this model, the gut is responsible for something absolutely critical: self-regulation and making sure it stays aligned with our values. The gut basically has three huge jobs. First, it provides that instant intuition we talked about. Second, and this is huge, it holds the AI's core values, its ethics, its safety instincts, the non-negotiable stuff. And third, it's like a traffic cop for the mind. It decides when a problem is important enough to wake up the slow, expensive, logical head.
And this, right here, might just be the key to building a genuinely safe AI. The gut acts as this core alignment layer.
Think of it as the AI's pain signal. If the powerful head cooks up a plan that violates a core value, like harming someone, the gut sends up a massive red flag. It provides an immediate, powerful check and flags that whole line of thought as dangerous. It's instinct, baked right into the system.
And that leaves us with one last, really provocative question. If we actually pull this off, if we build an AI that has a gut, an architecture that gives it not just logic but real intuition and core values, what happens when it goes beyond simple safety rules? What happens when an AI starts to develop complex, gut-level feelings we know so well, like doubt, shame, or maybe even love?